Yeah, they said he was suicidal, and he started talking about he wanted to bring a Bible with him or some shit.
Yeah, you heard that right. Foolio's killers are losing it, and it just got real. One of them collapsed in court after getting hit with a heavy sentence, and the rest? Let's just say they didn't keep it together either. But here's the real question. Was it just the life sentence that broke them? Word on the street is they're scared. Scared that Foolio's people are waiting for them on the inside, ready to handle business. I got all the details. Let's get into it. Courtroom chaos, from fearless to finished. It was supposed to be just another sentencing, but what happened inside that Florida courtroom on a humid June morning left even the bailiff stunned. The room fell into a chilling silence as one of Foolio's killers collapsed, body going limp, crashing to the courtroom floor right after hearing the words, "life without parole." His mother screamed. The defendant sobbed. Another co-defendant stared blankly at the wall, as if realizing for the first time that he would never breathe outside air again. And the most shocking part, the one accused of pulling the trigger, tried to fire his lawyer and represent himself in a death penalty case. You read that right. A man facing capital punishment thought he'd be his own best defense in a courtroom designed to bury him alive. But before we show you the collapse, the literal breakdown of a killer, you need to understand what they did and why it has sent shockwaves through the Florida legal system. Julio Foolio, born Charles Jones, wasn't just any rapper. He was one of Jacksonville's most controversial and feared voices, but he was also someone's son. And on June 22nd, he was in Tampa just trying to celebrate his birthday. By the early hours of June 23rd, he was dead, gunned down outside a hotel in a targeted ambush, executed by 3 men who allegedly followed his every move on social media and GPS tracking. At least 31 bullets riddled his vehicle. It was an orchestrated assassination. Police later revealed surveillance footage of the moment it all went down. 3 shooters creep across the parking lot, rifles in hand, aimed and ready. They didn't hesitate. Foolio was seated in the front passenger seat when they opened fire. He didn't even have a chance to run.
Let's look at this video. This is at the hotel, and you can see the shooters are getting in position for their planned out murder, and they are shooting at Charles now, and you can see that he's the passenger in that car that's moving and trying to flee. And again, they're still shooting at him. He's the right front passenger in that vehicle.
The suspects weren't dumb. They were thorough. They had watched Foolio. They knew where he was going. One was reportedly his ex's friend. Another, a young woman named Alicia Andrews, who at the time was pregnant, allegedly followed Foolio from club to club that night, texting updates to her crew like a spotter in a military op. These weren't seasoned criminals. Most of them were barely out of high school.
4 guys, 1 girl. The girl's pregnant currently, which makes it even crazier. One of the guys when they were arresting him, I guess he had a gun to his head. Did you hear this whole story?
Yeah, they said he was suicidal, and he started talking about he wanted to bring a Bible with him or some.
This group, ranging from age 18 to 30, allegedly committed one of the most high-profile rap killings in recent memory. Their trial is unfolding as we speak. Some of them are facing the death penalty, and the state isn't playing around. The state announced that it is considering the death penalty in this case.
These are all signs that things are gonna go very bad for them. Like, you got a girl in it, she's pregnant, he's suicidal, wants a Bible. It's not going good.
Not going good for who?
For the killers.
Now here's where things get even darker. One of the primary defendants, Rashad Murphy, fired his lawyer. He submitted a request to represent himself in a first-degree murder case that could end in lethal injection. The court warned him. His lawyer warned him. But Murphy persisted. Rashad Murphy submitted a request for a speedy trial, and in a crazy twist, also asked to get rid of his lawyer. This same man also filed handwritten letters to the judge, complaining that he was being treated as if he's already guilty. He claimed he wasn't allowed to make phone calls, write letters, or prepare for his own defense. He begged for access to legal documents. Some think it was a ploy. Others believe it was a man already cracking under the weight of what he'd done. One of the reasons Murphy may be spiraling, the evidence against them is overwhelming.
Well, it's not like they're going to get off for this.
No, they're They got so much evidence against them. Like, when you go through it, you can pretty much just, all right, pick a prison. Where do y'all want to go? It's just not, you can't even come up with a defense for them.
Investigators obtained ring camera footage of the suspects loading rifles into duffel bags. GPS data from their phones tracing every stop Foolio made, text messages between suspects discussing the murder in advance, and bullet casings from the murder scene that matched weapons found in the suspects' homes.
They found bullets in that kid's house. They found one of the murder weapons. They found bullets matching from the shooting scene. This kid kept collectibles from the case, like mad inside of his house.
As prosecutors revealed all this in court, one of the defendants, seated just feet from Foolio's grieving mother, collapsed. No camera was allowed to capture it directly, but courtroom witnesses say he fell out of his chair trembling, muttering, "I can't breathe." Whether it was fear, guilt, or the sudden realization of spending the rest of his life in a concrete box, no one knows. But what's clear is, the walls are closing in. Let's pause here for a second. This isn't just about gang retaliation or rap beef gone wrong. This is about how the internet turned violence into virality, where dissing dead rivals is just another way to rack up streams, where mourning mothers scroll through YouTube only to find songs mocking their children's deaths. Foolio did it to others, and eventually others did it to him. This toxic culture has now cost 6 people their futures. 1 is dead. 5 may never get out of prison. One of them is expecting a child who may grow up visiting mom through glass. But the evidence trail is even more damning than anyone imagined, and one defendant may have accidentally exposed everyone, all because he wanted social media clout. So how did we get here? According to prosecutors, Foolio's murder was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was a meticulously planned hit involving coordinated surveillance, multiple vehicles, out-of-town travel, and high-powered rifles. And it started at home, long before they reached Tampa. Footage showed the suspects, Rashad Murphy, Davian Murphy, and Sean Gathright, packing bags big enough to conceal rifles in a residential neighborhood. That bag was later confirmed to contain at least 2 assault-style weapons. Where was this caught? Their own surveillance camera.
We have evidence of the defendant's co-defendants very clearly meeting at Sean Gathwright's house on his video camera, where they are loading up big bags that are definitely big enough to hold these assault rifles that were used in this case.
One of the most disturbing parts? Foolio's final hours were basically live streamed by Foolio himself. As he shared clips of his birthday celebration on Instagram, investigators say Alicia Andrews and Isaiah Chance, lookouts pretending to be friends, were tracking his every move, from the club to the after party, and finally to the hotel where he was killed.
Jones was in town celebrating his birthday and posted on his social media his locations several times throughout that night. Surveillance video was critical in this investigation, as suspects were seen on video following Jones from location to location.
The shooters didn't pull into the hotel right away. They waited across the street. They watched. At 4:38 a.m., 3 of them crept out of their vehicle and walked toward the Home 2 suites. Armed with a handgun and 2 rifles, they sprayed Foolio's SUV with 31 rounds. 3 other people in the vehicle were also hit, but miraculously survived.
This barrage of gunfire also struck 3 additional victims who miraculously survived this incident. It's clear from that video what they were set out to do and what they had planned to do.
Why? What could drive 5 young people, one of them pregnant, to plan and commit an execution-style killing on a public street? According to prosecutors and police, the motive was classic street vengeance. One of the shooters allegedly had a brother, Spaz, who had been killed by someone in Foolio's camp.
I don't think he had nothing to do with the murder though.
No, I mean, it's actually pretty ugly what happened, because one of the suspects, their brother, Spaz, was allegedly killed by one of Foolio's friends.
Yeah.
Foolio rapped about him, and I believe there's a video of him urinating on his grave.
There's multiple videos of Foolio dissing this guy.
Not only did Foolio rap about it, but he mocked it in videos, including scenes showing someone urinating on Spaz's grave. That's not art. That's a declaration of war. So these 5 set out for Tampa. They didn't bring a diss track. They brought guns, bullets, burner phones, and a plan. But here's the twist. They weren't smart enough to hide the evidence. In fact, they practically gift-wrapped it for the cops. Let's go down the list. Alicia Andrews' phone was tracked from Jacksonville to Tampa, matching every location Foolio went to that night. License plate readers captured the cars used in the ambush. Surveillance from inside the hotel caught the suspects in the moments before and after the shooting. Forensic analysis of spent shell casings matched rifles recovered from Rashad Murphy's house. One of the suspects even kept souvenirs, bullet fragments, shell casings, in his home. Text messages showed a celebratory attitude after the murder, including one that read, "I'm coming home. My thirst is finally quenched."
They were caught on license plate cameras. He used his mama's car. His mama said, I had that car, then my son had it.
That's how cocky they were. Rashad Murphy, in particular, believed he could outsmart the system. He left his phone at home, but used everyone else's. And then he made the boldest move of all, asking to represent himself in court. Even his attorney told the judge this was madness. But Murphy pushed forward, claiming jail conditions were denying him a fair chance to prepare. Then he pulled out another card, the insanity defense. Back in November, he said he was going for an insanity defense. But here's the legal catch. You can't claim insanity if the evidence shows you meticulously planned a murder. That's literally the opposite of being insane.
I think this guy's nuts. I think That's why. I mean, he wants to defend himself, which is insane in a death penalty case. And then he actually has said that he may use an insanity defense, which also is insane in itself when the facts show otherwise, that these guys had meticulous planning and attempts to cover up crime. And when you have that, good luck in getting an insanity defense, because to sustain an insanity defense, you have to have an established medical condition and you have to not know the difference between right and wrong. But when you meticulously plan and then try to cover up your tracks, that shows you knew the difference between right and wrong. It shows you knew what you did was illegal. And when you want to just try to put forward an insanity defense as your own lawyer, it doubles the level of difficulty.
So Murphy's defense might already be dead on arrival, and if he insists on acting as his own lawyer, he could implicate his co-defendants in open court. That's why people close to the other suspects are panicking, especially Alicia Andrews. She's the only one who didn't waive her right to a speedy trial. Legal analysts believe she may be cooperating with prosecutors, and it would make sense. She's pregnant, she's young. She may want to see her child grow up. If she flips, the dominoes could fall fast. But the story isn't over yet. Inside their jailhouse meltdown, when prosecutors laid their cards on the table, it became clear someone talked. And early whispers in the courtroom pointed to just one name, Alicia Andrews. Andrews, just 21 and pregnant at the time of the murder, was facing the exact same first-degree murder charges as the men accused of pulling the trigger. Yet unlike them, she demanded a speedy trial, a move many legal experts interpreted as a warning shot or a signal of cooperation.
And then they just recently did it where the girl isn't waiving her right to a speedy trial, and they believe she's going to cooperate.
Right. Actually, one of my members, Kilcon RL, mentioned that. He said Alicia Andrews, who's the girl who's pregnant, she asked for a speedy trial, but the other three waived.
Right.
Waived that. So yeah, I guess that means she's cooperating now.
But what sealed it wasn't just the court documents, it was what came next. Andrews gave a full interview to police right after her arrest. She admitted to being there. She confirmed their movements across Tampa. And while she stopped short of saying who fired the shots, she gave up more than enough. Detail to place her crew exactly where prosecutors needed them.
Alicia, the girl, she gave an interview with police right when she got picked up. So she's already spoke to them and confirmed, oh yeah, we were here.
Investigators then used her phone's GPS history to track the group's path, from club to club, B&B to hotel. She may not have pulled the trigger, but Andrews played the role of modern-day recon, helping the killers trail their target digitally and physically, like something straight out of a military operation, but far more senseless. And prosecutors aren't just stopping at Alicia. In a ruling that's rattled defense attorneys, the court approved the use of prior gang-related killings as admissible evidence, specifically to show motive.
I do find, generally speaking, that this is evidence that does help create motive and intent and explain the crimes charged.
The reasoning? Foolio's murder was not an isolated event. It was the climax of a long-running feud between Jacksonville's most dangerous rap factions, 6 Block, ATK, and 1200. And these weren't artistic beefs. They were body-for-body wars, where disrespect was paid back with blood. Andrew's boyfriend, allegedly affiliated with one of these rival groups, one of the shooters, lost a brother in the feud. That brother's grave, desecrated in a Foolio music video. The judge allowed all of that to be entered into the record.
This is something in Jacksonville that is very well known. These videos, both by our victim as well as by the rival gangs, are posted immediately. It's in the public domain, and it details this long-standing feud.
Even worse, it seems some of the shooters themselves gave up the goods without knowing it. Let's talk about Rashad Murphy. You already know about his bizarre attempts to fire his lawyer, claim insanity, and represent himself in a death penalty case. But what really stunned prosecutors was what Rashad left behind. Surveillance cameras from his own house showed him and co-defendants packing up bags large enough to hold the exact types of rifles used in the murder. But even worse, investigators say Rashad was smart enough to leave his own phone at home, but used other people's devices instead, devices the state subpoenaed and traced across Tampa. One of the killers even paid for expenses using a Cash App card, which police tracked using purchase history and IP addresses. And get this, Rashad's mom's car, the one he was using, was caught on camera. When questioned, she confirmed, yeah, my son had it. It was game over. But maybe the most chilling detail of all, after the murder, one of the killers allegedly sent out a text. I'm coming home. My thirst is finally quenched.
That's the same guy who, after the murder, allegedly sent out a text, I'm coming home. My thirst is finally quenched. Like, it was a mission for him. So, I mean, if we're talking about motive, that's classic get back, right? Hey, his people did something to my brother. They kept laughing about it. They've desecrated his gravesite. This is a rapper who's been known to make videos at gravesite or laugh at the dead. Now we get to laugh at him.
A declaration, a celebration, and a confession. This entire tragedy is fueled by something far bigger than 5 reckless people. It's a culture that turned funerals into marketing and death into content. Foolio himself participated in it. He mocked dead rivals. He filmed videos at their grave sites, but in doing so, he lit a fuse that ultimately exploded with his own name etched onto a toe tag. The shooters? Kids. One of them just 18 years old, with a history of other alleged shootings stretching back to when he was 17. What happened in 5 years that turned a boy on Twitch into a boy with a gun? The police? They didn't stand a chance at stopping it. The real tragedy here is how preventable this all was. How social media became the new street corner, where threats are delivered in captions and retaliation measured in likes and shares. Florida's law enforcement is bracing for more violence. Investigators believe the gang war may not be over. There are still people out there, people with guns, with grudges, and now with martyrs. But the state is drawing a line. They want this case to be the one that sets the tone. From rap beef to life sentences. What does it look like when a man watches his future vanish? When Hillsborough County prosecutors finally brought the defendants into court, one by one, to face their fates, it was unlike anything local reporters had seen in years. This wasn't just a legal proceeding, it was a reckoning. When Sean Gathright, just 18 years old, was told he'd be spending the rest of his natural life in prison, he didn't flinch at first. But then came the details, the surveillance footage, the firearm forensics, the text messages, the Cash App receipts, every piece of evidence stacked like a wall around him. Witnesses in the courtroom said he slumped forward, eyes locked on the floor, mouthing something to himself over and over again. I ain't kill him. I ain't kill him. But prosecutors didn't care who fired the first shot. In Florida, if you help plan a murder, even if you never touched the gun, you're just as guilty. And Sean, he wasn't just involved, he was caught on video preparing for the ambush. Rashad Murphy, however, stole the show, for all the wrong reasons. As court was called to order, Rashad did something that stunned even veteran attorneys. He fired his lawyer. Again, despite being warned by the judge, his legal counsel, and even the prosecutor that he was making a catastrophic mistake, Rashad insisted on representing himself. It was like watching someone trying to perform surgery on themselves in front of a live audience with a butter knife. His reasoning? Jail conditions. He claimed he wasn't being treated fairly, that he wasn't being allowed to make calls, send letters, or access legal records. In a handwritten letter to the judge, he said he was being treated like he'd already been found guilty. He told the judge he's being treated as if he's already guilty. The deputies won't let him send mail or call his lawyer or prepare for his case. But the courtroom wasn't buying it. To stand trial in Florida, especially for a death penalty case, you must be deemed mentally competent. And Rashad? Well, he wasn't doing himself any favors. He had earlier hinted at invoking an insanity defense, despite being part of what the prosecution described as one of the most meticulously planned murders they'd ever investigated. That contradiction alone could have sunk any hope of leniency. And then came the breakdown. As Rashad stood alone trying to cross-examine his own fate, he suddenly froze. His knees buckled. He collapsed to the courtroom floor. One bailiff rushed to his side. Another called for a medic. His mother screamed from the gallery. The judge called for a brief recess. No cameras captured the moment, but witnesses confirmed it. One of Foolio's killers broke down completely, trembling and sobbing as the weight of a life sentence crushed him in real time. Meanwhile, Foolio's mother sat silently in the front row. She'd heard her son disrespected, dissected, and even blamed in some online corners for bringing this on himself. But as she later told reporters, he was still my son, and he didn't deserve to die on his birthday. She'd seen the footage. She'd seen the social media mockery. And she had one thing left to cling to: the courts, justice.
And let's not lose sight of the fact that there are innocent victims in every homicide case. The loved ones who are left behind. His fans knew him as Foolio, but to his mom, he's Charles. We're fighting to make sure that she gets justice.
But even justice felt cold, because what no one talks about, what doesn't trend on Twitter or go viral on TikTok, is what happens after the shooting stops, after the sentencing, when mothers go home alone, replaying that surveillance video in their head, when a child grows up visiting their mom through a thick glass window